Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is the role of elder law attorneys and how that fits into advanced care planning. So elder law attorneys are, as every other group in the world, whether it's doctors or people working with older adults or people working in Medicare or whatever, are very, very specialized these days. So some of the concerns that people have with older adults, as an older adult, there are concerns about healthcare. There's concerns about caregiving and the costs associated with that. There are retirement issues. Sometimes people are facing disability issues, especially if they have a disabled child and they're planning for that disabled child, or if they are disabled as an older person and needing to look specifically at how does that disability affect their care and issues into their later life. Guardianship is a really big one, especially as people experience dementia and the inability to care for themselves, and long-term care is a big one. So what I've tried to do on this particular slide is to specifically kind of put these needs, if you will, into 3 different buckets. So one is retirement planning, and that really sort of looks at your wealth and how much money you have, how is your property titled, how do you pass on your property to heirs, how do you continue to either retain title to it, or what kind of, how much money do you need in your retirement, that kind of thing. That takes a very specialized attorney, and oftentimes they also work very closely with real estate agents, with insurance brokers, as well as with CPAs. The next need that we frequently see is people who are concerned about a will. And people frequently get a will, which is your last will and testament, mixed up with a living will. So a last will and testament is what happens to your property once you pass away. So does your house go to your child? Does your money go to charities? What happens to the things that you own? And that happens in a last will and testament. A will is also required these days to give your agent, whoever that is, the specific authority to bury you or to authorize a cremation or whatever, unless you have a pre-need funeral. Another instrument that elder law attorneys could get involved with is trusts and estate planning. And again, many people will put their assets into a trust. The benefit of a trust and finding an attorney who knows how to manage those is that it can pass outside of probate, saving basically, again, your heirs the time spent to go into court and get legal title to your property, which gets us to the next one, which is probate. So anything that you own that's over $25,000 that is titled in your name at the time that you pass away, unless it's titled in joint tenancy with someone, does have to be probated through the courts. So that's why a lot of people use trusts. Sometimes elder law attorneys are also very involved with Medicare and Medicaid eligibility. Most of the time, they're not very involved with Medicare, but a lot of them are very specifically involved with Medicaid. And this looks at creating financial documents, if you will, so that your property is titled properly, that if you have few enough assets, that you meet the eligibility requirements for Medicaid, that if you are married and own property, that it gets titled in the name of the well spouse so that you can be entitled to Medicaid, and Medicaid that can then help to pay for long-term care costs. It's not something that's available to everyone, because oftentimes your estate is large enough that you don't really qualify for Medicaid, but sometimes that makes sense. The important thing to remember is that for many people who would like the government or the state to pay for your long-term care through Medicaid, that may or may not be an option. But again, having an elder law attorney look at your estate, what your assets and liabilities are, if you are, or they believe you might be eligible, looking at the transfer of those assets to either a Medicaid qualified trust or to a spouse is worth spending the time for. Again, that's very similar to the healthcare and Medicaid planning. Sometimes we even see elder law attorneys these days who have a social worker on their staff specifically to help with things like placement of their friends and of their staff, of their clients into assisted living, nursing homes, helping to arrange for home care, other kinds of services that one might need. Again, paying for those services becomes a very significant part of any estate planning, whether you are paying for those out of your own funding or whether those are being made available through Medicare or Medicaid. And then the last one in this column is long-term care insurance. Most younger people can purchase long-term care insurance. Long-term care insurance, again, making sure you understand what the cost of long-term care insurance is. The premiums tend to run annually about 1 to 2 months of care in an assisted living or a nursing home. So while it feels like a lot of money, the annual premiums usually are around $6,000 or $7,000. If you are buying a plan later in life, if you buy it when you're 25 or 30, the premiums are much lower. But most premiums for long-term care insurance are rated to your age. So there are some incremental increases that are age-related usually, and then others are also specifically based on the loss ratio or how much the company has paid out in benefits. The biggest thing that, again, if you are looking to buy some long-term care insurance, you would purchase the actual insurance from an insurance broker that is licensed to sell it. But sometimes when we are doing estate planning and we want to protect some of the assets, an attorney will suggest that you purchase long-term care insurance to pay for the cost of long-term care. And a lot of the old long-term care policies that have been around for a while pay out lower amounts than basically what care costs today. So that's why you're going to see the premiums higher if you were to buy one of those in the short term at this moment. The next bucket, if you will, that moves away kind of from financial planning and what happens to your estate and your assets and those kinds of things, is how we actually seek the services of an elder law attorney to help us make legal decisions. So a durable power of attorney, what durable means is that basically the instrument, whether it's for financial or healthcare purposes, takes effect immediately, and it is not affected in any way, shape, or form by your disability. So durable just means it continues on regardless of your ability to make decisions for yourself. My advice always is to make both the financial as well as the healthcare power of attorney durable, and to make them take effect immediately rather than at some point in the future. Again, just because they are in effect does not necessarily mean that the person who is your agent is going to immediately start making decisions for you. I have a lady that I have been her power of attorney for more than 25 years, and it's only in the last year or two that I have actually had to make decisions for her. Prior to that, she was making those decisions herself, and was perfectly able and capable to do that. So the one thing in terms of both financial and medical powers of attorney that one should know is that the financial power of attorney is pretty prescriptive in Colorado state law. So the actual copy of the form is in the state statute as well as in the rules and regulations. Now, it is not a mandatory form. It is only a suggested form, but my experience is that most elder law attorneys have copied the form directly out of the statute and then use that in their preparation of a financial power of attorney. The medical power of attorney is in statute as well, but it is not a prescriptive form. So there are a number of forms out there. Most elder law attorneys will have their own legal language, if you will, that they use. They can customize it for your situation. And I would always suggest, again, that you review it and make sure that whatever powers you are giving to your agent on both the financial and the healthcare side, that you understand specifically what those are and how you want your wishes financially, as well as about your person implemented by your agent. A guardianship and a conservatorship, these are legal forms that have to be court approved. So when you file for, or someone files for a guardianship, while you can do it yourself or pro se, and there is a pretty good tutorial at the Denver District Court's website that tells you what forms you need to file. Most people, when they're working on guardianships and or conservatorships, will hire the services of an attorney. A guardianship, basically, the court gives direction to your guardian and says, these are the things that you are responsible for. It can be a limited guardianship or it can be a full guardianship. Limited means that you are responsible for certain kinds of things and making sure that the ward or the individual you are guardian for, in fact, gets those things, and you have to file a report annually with the court, which gets reviewed. So your appointment as a guardian is for 1 year. If you have issues or the guardian is not providing the services and support that you need, you can have, like an elder law attorney, go back into court for you and refile and get a new agent or a new guardian. The conservatorship's responsibility is specifically taking responsibility for your finances. So it could be very limited, just your Social Security or pension income, or it could be a very significant estate where you might have rental property, you might have a lot of 401ks, you might have stocks and bonds. A conservator is responsible for making sure that your investments and your assets grow and that they have your best interest at heart. Again, getting those set up by an elder law attorney and getting it court approved is important because, again, that provides you with the protections that those get filed with the court, and the court then can keep an eye on making sure that your assets are being properly managed. Elder law attorneys can also draft a living will or other kinds of advance directives, like do not resuscitate orders or CPR directives. A living will basically says that you do not want life support, extraordinary measures, if you are deemed to not have any kind of quality of life. Other kinds of advance directives, like a do not resuscitate or CPR, what that does is indicates, if you will, that you either do or don't want the medical team to start your heart should it start again. There are other kinds of documents sometimes that you also need, especially if you've got like custody of a child, or if you have other very unique situations. Sometimes, as I said, elder law attorneys can help you locate long-term care facilities. My suggestion is that there's lots of resources in the community that can help with that. And so unless you're really dedicated and committed to using the services of an attorney, you probably don't need to spend your money doing that, but you certainly can if you want. Nursing home residents' rights. There's been a really big push the last 25 or 30 years about rights in nursing homes and resident rights. These are frequently violated by other staff, by other residents. And so sometimes people want to take that situation to a higher level than just having it investigated by the nursing home. There's an assisted living one. There's assisted living resident rights as well. And there have been in the last couple of years a number of lawsuits that have been filed. One specifically against a lawsuit down in the Cherry Creek Parker area that resulted in multi-million-dollar settlements because of false advertising and falls and taking the not reporting correctly in the resident record. So there were a lot of abuses associated with that. So if you believe that you or a family member or friend have been wronged in a nursing home, you could hire an elder law attorney to represent you and see if you have a case that needs to be, that you want to litigate. Similarly, both in assisted living as well as nursing homes, there are now a lot of abuse cases that are being reported, some more severe than others. Again, if there's really bad physical harm, if there is, if someone has died as a result of abuse, if the facilities are not in compliance, then you may want to consider filing an abuse claim as well. These again have to go to court and they have to be litigated. Your elder law attorney will have to prove that there was in fact guilt. Usually that has to be proved beyond a reasonable doubt, and it's a very complicated and complex process. But again, if there is harm, we definitely want the nursing home and or the assisted living to be held accountable for that harm. Patients' rights really kind of just feeds into this. And there are also patients' rights in hospitals, and sometimes I have also seen those litigated. And then the last one we hear is planning for a minor or adult with a special child or with special needs. And one of the things that I have witnessed over time in my many, many years of working in the field of elder care is that many young babies that were born who might have not grown to adulthood and or even later life themselves are living with older adults. And again, it's really important that we plan for that minor child who has depended on you their whole life, and that we have a plan, whether that's a disability trust, whether that's getting the court to appoint guardians or conservators, whether it's helping and making sure that their Medicare and Medicaid eligibility is taken care of. So those are all the kinds of things that you might have as a need that you could secure the help of an elder law attorney. So elder law attorneys, as I said earlier, many of them are starting to specialize in they'll do estates, or they'll do probate, or they'll do Medicaid eligibility, or they'll do disability rights. And even like when a call comes into our office, if I'm making a referral, there are certain people that I will refer to based on the presenting issue. You as a consumer should definitely feel really comfortable with the elder law attorney that is representing you, and because you are going to be dealing with some very, very sensitive and important information that you will need to share. Since older adults primarily are the ones who use elder law attorneys, and they present with this very wide range of needs, we also then see that attorneys practice in those very specialized areas. And so this is just, again, once you identify your need, then making sure that you identify an attorney that practices in that area. Just because they're an elder law attorney doesn't mean that they will have expertise in all of these areas. How do elder law attorneys bill? They tend to bill by the hour based on the type of work that they have completed. Sometimes, and I am currently working personally with an attorney who is charging based upon the type of document that we are filing. So there's a separate charge for medical and financial powers of attorney. There's a separate charge for trusts. There's a separate charge for wills. And so there's an overall charge, kind of a base rate. And then instead of charging by the hour to prepare all the different forms, this particular attorney is charging by the type of document that we are having him execute. You also basically need to make sure that you understand the documents that you have asked the person to, or the elder law attorney to file, and make sure that then you review those, even if there is an additional charge at the end. Don't sign something in the wake of saving a $500 fee just because you don't want to pay that last $500 or whatever it is. So what are some of the questions that you want to ask when you are hiring an elder law attorney? So it's fair to ask them, how long have you been not only practicing law, but how long have you been practicing in elder law? I got a referral or a request earlier this week for a referral to an elder law attorney. And when I was looking at the law practice that I was thinking of making the referral to, I noted that the person I was looking at was no longer doing elder law, which is fine. But if they're not devoting a lot of time to that area of the law, then it's important for you to maybe find somebody, even if they're come with a high recommendation, that has skills and expertise in that. So, and the reason for that is that the Colorado State Legislature almost every year passes a bill that looks at something related to elder law. So this past year, there was 100 and some page bill on changes to the guardianship rules. There was also a bill that was passed related to medical aid in dying, which may affect some people's living will and their medical powers of attorney. So again, having an attorney that knows that is helpful to your getting the best legal advice. Another area that is frequently changed more by the federal government than by the state government is Medicaid and Medicaid eligibility and wait times and those kinds of things. You also want to ask the attorney what kind of information you should bring to the first meeting. If you show up with your list of questions, you have the documents that they need, then that again can save significant amount of billing time. And then the last one, which most of us are very concerned about, is what are your charges? So that is the information that you want to ask as you are looking at hiring an attorney. Then the second set of questions, once you have made your decision, is really sort of zeroing in on what are the kinds of questions that you need to ask on your first visit. And again, this is not like a laundry list. This is not something that you will ask for every single situation that you're looking at, because you only need to ask the questions associated with whatever it is that you are seeing. This is just some sample questions. So if you're going, for example, to get a last will and testament, then you will want to find out what is needed for that. And if you're specifically, say, facing something related to dementia, then do you need any additional information if you're looking at that type of legal support and advice? When you are hiring somebody, as I said, you'll want to find somebody who not only specializes in elder law, but you want them to specialize in the type of legal advice that you need. Now, not all elder law attorneys are 100% specialized. Some of them are a little bit more general. So they'll do wills and estates and guardianships and medical powers of attorney and that kind of thing. But maybe they won't do anything in the area, say, of nursing home or elder abuse or residents' rights and those kinds of things. Many attorneys do offer a free 30-minute consultation. And so, feel free to take advantage of that. That's where you can at least get some initial understanding of how the person works and whether or not you and that individual could establish a relationship. Fees tend to range at least $400 an hour or more. Some of them will just charge a flat fee, depending on what it is that you are asking them to do. Some of them will require a minimum amount of money be put into a trust account. And then as they do work for you, they will bill against that trust account. And then when that trust account reaches a certain minimum balance, then you have to add monies to it. So there's a lot of different ways that you can pay. And there's a lot of variation, if you will, in the amount of money or the fees that people charge. So there's two ways, if you will, to find an elder law attorney. The one I most of the time suggest people use is the National Academy of Law Attorneys, or NALA. And they have a section in their website that says locate an elder law attorney. and then you can put in the state, the type of practice. You can grind that down to your zip codes. I looked at that website this morning as I was preparing it. There are probably 20 to 30 Colorado attorneys that are listed. And I recognized probably 15 or 20 of those elder law attorneys that do maintain a membership in the National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys. So I feel like that's a good resource if you are looking for somebody. The Colorado Bar Association used to have an elder law section, but I couldn't find it this morning. They do have a find a lawyer search, which we would expect. And then sometimes you can limit it to elder law or other specialties, but I didn't find the section of the elder law section of the Bar Association. So I don't know if they have been folded into another part of the bar or just exactly what. So I'm going to have to do a little bit more research on that. You are welcome to always use pre-printed forms. In the state of Colorado, pre-printed forms are recognized as legal and they can save you money. However, I would like to caution you a couple of things. If you're using like the pre-printed financial power of attorney, that's in the state statute, I'm perfectly comfortable with that and would encourage you to do that. The other pre-printed forms, although you can customize those often like on Rocket Lawyer or whatever for Colorado, if it's a really simple will that says, bury me, take all my assets and give it to my, one surviving daughter, then you're probably fine. If your estate is more complicated, then I get a little worried about using those kinds of pre-printed forms. So the other thing that I have actually had elder law attorneys tell me from time to time is that sometimes their biggest area of work is that the individual used a pre-printed form and like say for a will or whatever. And then when they actually tried to start to execute it, then there was a lot of information that was not included, if you will, in that pre-printed form. And so then they have to seek the services of an elder law attorney to actually help sort that out. For people who are very low income, the state does fund a company called Colorado Legal Services. They do have some grant money, both at the federal as well as at the state level. They do have a lot of limitations on not only who they serve, but what they will work on. So they'll do things like simple wills. They'll do landlord tenant kind of like evictions, trying to do mediation with landlord tenant. And a lot of them will do also Medicaid and public benefits. They do have about 10 or 12 offices around the state of Colorado. Those are not by any means staffed every single day of the month, but they are staffed by Colorado Legal Services or by pro bono attorneys. Colorado Legal Services does have some staff attorneys. They have some paralegals, and they will go to court with you on like landlord-tenant relationships, or if you, have been like taken off of Medicaid and they believe that you should have been kept on Medicaid and you need to go to like an administrative law judge or whatever, I have seen them go to court with you on that. The other thing that Colorado Legal Services does is they make very good use of pro bono attorneys. So they have a very long a panel, if you will, of volunteers. And it's kind of like not required, but it's in the code of ethics for attorneys that you have to do a certain amount of pro bono work. And so many attorneys are involved with a lot of different organizations, if you will, providing those pro bono services. A lot of that is done through the bar, and a lot of it is done through Colorado Legal Services. I've also seen a fair amount of it done through the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless. So again, just knowing that if you need free resources, that is available to you as well. Just a quick overview on the society programs. As you can see, we have a number of different programs that we help with or that we manage. We have grants to help with dental services. We have some grants to have a telephone buddy placed with you that can check in with you once or twice a week. We also have some mental health counseling supports for mental health services that are not billable to Medicare and Medicaid. At this point, those are only available to Denver County residents. We have some grants if you are having trouble seeing for like low vision aids, like magnifiers. We can provide some advanced care planning support. Again, we don't necessarily we're not attorneys, so we don't give legal advice, but we can help you figure out what are the questions to ask, what should you do. We will support you in filling out pre-printed forms if that's what you want to do. We can do some general counseling. We have a housing and home care locator, which will help you find information on assisted living, nursing homes, low-income housing, and independent living, as well as home care, hospice, and adult day. And that's on our website, and you can click on the blue button and it will help you do a search. And then if you're low income and in the Denver area, we also have a holiday basket program. We just completed our Salute to Seniors, which is a big senior expo. We have not signed the contract, but we will be doing it again next year on August 23rd at the Greek Event Center, and invite you all to join us. We are currently going to be launching a series of Medicare Monday educational programs that are directed at older adults. You can also, as part of that, ask for individual counseling or support to like help you enroll or review your Medicare Part D, or if you're new to Medicare, what type of Medicare coverage you should select for yourself. We do a lot of work with housing and advocacy, just again, trying to make sure that people are getting the support that they need, including general advocacy and public policy around older adults. And lastly, you may have seen our senior resource guidebook. We print that annually and distribute it primarily at senior fairs as well as through libraries, and hope to be printing a new copy later this fall. So if you have any questions, you feel free to give us a call. Our telephone number is 303-333-3482, and our website is www.senioranswers.org. And thank you for joining us today.